But I tell myself this line that I can't afford to take time off, and yet I can't afford not to take time off. Productivity versus survival. That's the bind that I'm in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Standing Nowhere podcast. This is your host, Jacob, and as usual, it is a pleasure to be back with you. Especially today, it is the 20th episode of the podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the vitalness of rest, the importance of rest. It's a very important thing in life, and it's something that goes overlooked, I think, by many of us. And I'm not talking about the kind of rest that you schedule, but the kind that you desperately need, even when you can't afford it. Because that's where I've been over this last week. I took a week off, but I desperately needed it. And I couldn't afford it financially, but I still took it anyways. And it's really hard for me to do that. I've been in this cycle now for about 3 years where I work myself to the bone, to the point where I can't even function anymore. And then when I can't do any more, I take time off. My body, it communicates with me. It tells me, hey, you need to stop right now. This is enough. And then my brain says, well, wait a minute. The bills, the lights are going to get shut off. What about rent? But my body says, no, you need to rest. You need to stay home and not go out there. It's tough, though, when you're behind on bills. Work, is piling up for me, and I should be hustling, but damn it, I have to take time off. And I get into this cycle where even when I take time off, I feel guilt-ridden, which I'll go into more about later. But I tell myself this line that I can't afford to take time off, and yet I can't afford not to take time off. Productivity versus survival. That's the bind that I'm in. And a lot of you listening are out there in that same situation. I'm looking for work. I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. My air conditioner's out in my car on top of it. I was just done. I was at the end of my rope. So let's talk about rest, guys. It's important. It's something that, if you follow the Hebrew tradition, is a commandment to rest. Not everyone out there listening is Christian or Jewish, and that's fine, okay? Just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater on this one for me, okay? Listen to this. In the Hebrew tradition, their relationship with the divine, this whole universe, whatever you want to call it, they have a commandment to rest. They call it the Sabbath. You're familiar with it. What does it mean? What does Sabbath mean? The etymology of that word is from the root shavat, which means to cease, to stop, to rest. We're not talking about just taking a break. We're talking about a complete cessation or stopping, an ending. You're basically declaring something is finished even when it's not done. Like in my situation, what about the bills? What about the rent? Stop. You need to rest. You need to trust that it's going to be okay when you rest as well. And I struggle with that right now. That's probably for me, it's a dream right now to be able to take time off and have all the bills paid for. I haven't done that in years. Here I am recording a podcast on my lunch break. Instead of relaxing with my wife right now and eating lunch, I'm recording this episode because it's the only hour that I have available during the day where I can feasibly do it. In Genesis, it says, on the seventh day, God finished his work, which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. He didn't rest because he was tired. He rested as a model. In the Hebrew tradition, they are saying, look, the source of everything takes a chill day. And it's not because he's tired. It's because that's just the way it is. Shabbat means finished and rested. Nobody, nothing, everything stops, everything relaxes. One of the 10 Commandments. I mean, we're talking about a list of things not to do and to do. And it's right there with don't murder and don't steal. Don't kill somebody is right next to take a day off. It's important. It's very important. It's not optional. It's not like, yeah, when I have time. And I get it. There are times where I have not been able to take a day off. I say times, I mean like all the damn time. I've had plenty of times where my dad calls me up. My dad, he's a Seventh-day Adventist flavor of Christian, which they take the Sabbath extremely serious. He would call me up and text me all the time like, you're taking Saturday off, right? And I'd be like, Dad, if I do, the lights are going to get shut off, or I'm not going to be able to pay my car bill, and it could go into repo or this and that. So there are times when you cannot rest. But there are times when you must, regardless. It's not an option. It's how we're designed. Every day we rest for 8 hours. It rejuvenates us. But beyond that, we also need rest from work in our waking hours. There's a Jewish rabbi and philosopher by the name of Abraham Joshua Heschel, and he wrote beautifully about the Sabbath. Our culture says we have the framework that you rest to recharge so that you can go back to work and work better. Like rest serves work. And to some degree, yes, when you rest, you are more productive. That is absolutely true. But Heschel, he says that we work so that we can rest better. The work serves the rest. Rest is not the pit stop. It's the finish line. It is the point of being alive. The Sabbath or the rest day is the climax of the week. It's not the intermission to get back to business, quote unquote. Just being is the point of being here. Things are very backwards in the West. We way overvalue work. It's important. It's necessary. We have to get things done, yes. But it is not the point of existence. Your being, your rest is the point. Heschel, he has a quote that says, the Sabbath is not for the sake of the weekdays. The weekdays are for the sake of the Sabbath. It is not an interlude, but the climax of living. He says, 6 days a week we seek to dominate the world. On the seventh day, we try to dominate the self. 6 days we're out there working, dominating, trying to control, produce, achieve. But what do we do on the seventh day? We dominate ourselves. And what do I mean by that? That means that we face our urges to keep going. We try to master them. We have to shift to a trust instead of a control. And I am constantly learning this lesson over and over and over again. And my wife points it out to me. On paper, I'll write out my schedule. Like, I got to work these next 4 weeks with no days off. And my wife will just roll her eyes. You'll see. Okay, babe, you'll see. And I'll be like, watch me. And sometimes I'll prove her wrong. I'll get through 3 or 4 weeks, but then I'm ready to collapse. And then there's sometimes like last week where my body, it says, nope, You're staying home. And you might be thinking, okay, the Bible's 3,000, 3,500 years old. What does that have to do with me? And my finances, in 2025. Everything. You see, this commandment in the Hebrew tradition was not given to people who had everything figured out, everything was organized, they loved working. This was given to the Israelites right after they escaped slavery in Egypt. They had nothing, no homes, no security, wandering in the desert, terrified about where their next meal is going to come from. You can read the stories when, manna would appear daily, something they could eat, but they couldn't hoard it. It would rot. They had to trust each day to the next. That's where I am right now. I have no idea how I'm going to pay all these bills I have. But it's not that I don't care. It's just that I trust it. I've rested. And you know what? I'm 42. I'm going to be okay. I'll figure it out. I'm just going to focus on putting one foot in front of the other. These Israelites, God said to them in that terrified state they were in, wanting to hoard everything, stop anyway. Rest anyways. Trust me anyways. Just stop. Rest, trust. That's a good motto. Stop, rest, trust. So if these people could rest with nothing, maybe we can rest when we think we have nothing as well. Just maybe. Just maybe. I had a note here that says the commandment is to rest is also a commandment to trust. Because it's tough. The reason we don't rest is because we don't trust that things are going to be okay. Oh, I know for me, just recently, when I saw that I wasn't going to make my rent, even working maxed out days, that's when I just exhaled. And, it's stressful. But when the realization dawned on me, I was like, well, I'm going to take a few days off then. I know that's a bad mindset probably, but sometimes, like I said, you have to have rest that you don't schedule, that you just know you need it. And you have to deeply experience it, breathing from your heels, fully resting each day. And during this past week, I did not even think about the podcast. And I love doing this podcast. I love it so freaking much. I hope to God that I can do this full time. Because right now I am buried up to my eyes in shit. I love this. I love talking to people. I wish I had more time to talk to people. This is a creative endeavor for me, and yet I'm buried in work, and I can't indulge as much as I would like to in doing this podcasting thing, and it kills me inside. One of the greatest sources of joy for me over these last couple of months has been doing this podcast, and it's still super small. I have barely anyone listening. I just am starting to get my first couple of comments from people, and it feels good. It feels really good. That to me is a rest unto itself. I got a comment from someone the other day on an older episode I did. I think it was episode 4. And they said, this episode was just what I needed to hear today. Thank you. I said, your comment was just what I needed to hear today. Thank you. I bring this up because, even the podcast, which I love doing, I had to take a step away from it because the last couple episodes for me have been very stressful because of my incredible workload and trying to figure out these episodes with little to no free time. So I even had to walk away from that. I walked away from everything. And I said, babe, I'm taking some days off. We're going to have some fun. We're going to hang out with the kids. We're going to play some video games. We're going to eat whatever the heck we want. We're just going to let it all hang out and take a little staycation. And she loves having me around because I'm not around that much. Damn it. Rest is the point of life. It's what we are here for. What's the point if you can't rest? Rock bottom is when you realize that you need it, and that for me is, I love rock bottom, honestly. The reason I love rock bottom is because I can be a very controlling type of person, at least for my own life, not controlling of others, but wanting to control my circumstances. It's hard for me to surrender, and yet that's where the freedom is. That's where the trust is. So it's this balancing act. I've been much better at it the last couple of years, but I still struggle. And when I hit rock bottom, that's the point where you can't keep going anymore. Not that you won't, but you can't. Your body shuts down. Your mind shuts down. You've hustled as hard as you can, and you're still sinking. And that's where I was a little over a week ago, rock bottom. I'm like, damn it, I'm not going to make rent. I'm burnt out. My air conditioning's out in my car. I need to recover. It forces you to surrender. You can't, I couldn't control my way out of it anymore. I had to let go. But the nice thing about it is it's this humbling experience, like there's this quote from Rumi where he says, don't turn your head. Keep looking at the bandaged place. That's where the light enters you. That's where the light enters you. The wound, the breaking point, the place where we are the most vulnerable. And for me, it's when I feel like I can't fix something or control something. And it's a blessing in disguise. Like I mentioned, that rock bottom, it's like it opens something up in me. It's like, wow, I can't get out of this. I can't run from this. And then transformation happens. These cracks, it's where the light gets in. But it's unfortunate in my case that it takes rock bottom for me to surrender and finally rest. So going forward, I'm going to try to force myself to take one day off every single week. And I think it might benefit me because even though it's my day off, I can maybe pencil in like an interview with somebody, and just do an hour episode with someone. And then I can just focus on editing, and simple things instead of trying to plan all these episodes out. I've wanted to do so many interview episodes, but I don't ever take a day off, so I can't. So I'm going to try to be better at this and avoid rock bottom going forward. And I'll let you guys know in future episodes how I do on that. Wish me luck. But it's all about trust, trusting. Letting go, surrendering. We're grinding, hustling, trying to control everything. We think we're being responsible in that process, but it's like we are, I don't know how to describe it. It almost feels like the more I try to grind or hustle my way to where I need to be, it's like I'm outside of myself. I'm away from my center. I've gone on a long walk from home, and resting is when you come home again. The word Shuv in Hebrew means to return, and that's the modern Shuv means to return, and it is understood today as repentance. But repentance today is like this negative connotation, if you ask me. It's It's like, you better own up to what you done did, but it's like, no, returning to your center, resting, Shabbat, Sabbath. Meister Eckhart has a quote where he says, God is at home. It is we who have gone out for a walk. I wrote that quote down, and that's why I kind of had that metaphor in my head, like we're walking away from our centers, the more that we do, the more that we're busy, get more done. Even this podcast, it started to like take me away. I was like, I love it, as I mentioned, but it was like, I got to this point where I was thinking to myself, like, oh, I gotta see where people are falling off in engagement and views and clicks and all the logistics of the podcast. But all the while, it's like Meister Eckhart says, God is at home. It is we who have gone out for a walk. So come back. And yet we can leave that center when we're seeking, striving, trying to get there, quote unquote. But when every time that I rest, I realize that I am already where I need to be. And then when I go back to work, I carry that with me, that feeling of centeredness. Like today, I was doing deliveries, and I just felt like I was exactly where I needed to be at every moment. I wasn't rushing to get each delivery done as fast as possible. I was efficient. But, when I'm walking out of the restaurant, I'm just feeling myself, my steps, opening the door of the restaurant, the feeling of my body as I move to the car, the feel of the wind, my environment around me, just taking it in. Otherwise, it's like I'm detached from myself and I'm somewhere else and I'm not living my actual life that is here and now. And rest reminds me of that. I carry that rest with me when I go back to work. I love it. That's what I got out of the rest, really. When I like what actually happened when I stopped? Well, the first few days, or first couple of days I started, because this was like an unplanned week that I took off. It started as like a half day, and then a couple of half days, and then it was like 2 or 3 full days. I'm talking about a rest week here, and I probably still worked about 30 hours. But what always happens when I first stop and rest is there's that panic that sets in, and that guilt, and the voice in my head that's screaming at me, like, what about this? What about that? The mental tallying of the bills, it comes, and then I just remind myself to be present, like it's gonna be okay. And then it just calms down, and then I can really start to enjoy my rest after that, at least to the best of my ability. I sleep better, my mind is clear, and just the fun that you have from resting. I just wish I could put it into words. It's like, I feel like a dry sponge that was like dry and twisted, and then rest is like this wonderful stream of water, and I start cracking and then coming back to my original position. Like, take, for example, my last episode that I did, Ghost in the Restaurant. I love that episode. It was like me talking about my old friends and, my social life and how a lot of that feels gone nowadays. And that episode just came out of me, and I was really pleased with it. And the last couple of episodes before that episode were very, I don't want to say forced, but I was very nervous about them, and I was very uptight, and the last one just flowed right out of me. Like, it felt so good. And the only difference is that I completely walked away from my job. I completely walked away from the podcast. And when it came time to do an episode, I opened my notepad and I just sketched like a whole episode, like automatically. And I'm thinking to myself, man, what would it be like if I had regular, normal time off to do this podcast? Like, holy smokes. It's like I'll be in my restful period and awesome moments of productivity will happen like that. But I know that the work ahead doesn't disappear. The bills are still there, but it's like my relationship to them changes. I see them more clearly instead of being swallowed by them. It's like a metaphor they use in Buddhism where when you are not mindful, you are in the river as it's coming down and it's pushing you around and sweeping you away. But when you rest, for me, it's like you once again are sitting by the river and you're watching it go by. Not like a disassociation, but a perspective. It puts you in the proper perspective. It gives you your footing back, if that makes sense. And then when you come back to work, it feels so much better, you know? Like there's this quote from Alan Watts that I wrote down for this episode. It says, this is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realize it is play. So when I force myself to take time off, I always feel so refreshed when I come back. Like work goes from being serious to sincere. And I always end up making more money too, ironically. It's like I'm always in the right area of town. Low tippers, they don't bug me as much. But yeah, I make more money when I come back after resting. It's weird. It's like I do the same thing. I do the same job. I put in the same effort with the same strength, but I just make more money easier. It doesn't feel the same. It's like there's engagement without the grind. And to me, it just reminds me why we're all here, and I just wanted to talk about it today. That's the point of being alive, guys, is rest. To be, to exist, not to work. You know, in the Hebrew tradition, God's name is I am, not I am working. It is simply I am. And yes, we do have to work, but it's very important for you to take your rest seriously or sincerely. And that's really all I wanted to say today. Probably a shorter episode than usual, but I wanted to let you guys know, going forward, I am going to take my rest more sincerely. And I honestly hope you do too, because it's why we're here. But I love you guys, and I'm really glad that you're here. That's your homework assignment this week, is to remember to rest. So if you made it to this point, I guess you're one of the few who listens to the podcast, and I'm grateful for you. So, if you can, take a second and just give me a rating, because it means a lot to me. Anyways, I wanted to close out with a Lao Tzu reading from the Tao Te Ching. It's verse 16. It says, "Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. Immersed in the wonder of the Tao, you can deal with whatever life brings you. And when death comes, you are ready." Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Relax.